All right, guys, we are live.
Hello.
Hello. Let's start the show. Let's see, where are we at in the notes? I always get lost in my own notes. Here we go. All right. And welcome back to another episode of TWiP. I am your host, Frederick Van Johnson. We've got a big show this week to discuss all the things happening in the world of photography. And joining me to help me walk through this jungle of news are Mr. Joseph Linaschke, Thomas Hawk, and Evgeny Chabatarov. Guys, welcome to the show. We got a full house. What is going on? Let's start with you, Evgeny. I haven't spoken to you in forever, man. What is going on? Where are you? Are you in Canada now? San Francisco? What's up?
I am in Canada tonight, and I am in San Francisco by lunch tomorrow.
Just the jet setter.
Yeah.
Jet setter. They love you in customs, don't they?
I hope not. I hope they will let me go.
Just slide through.
I'm putting a lot of maple syrup.
There you go. The Canadian mascot. Well, welcome to the show, man. It's good to have you back on. Mr. Thomas Hawk, you haven't been on in forever either.
Hey, way too long.
Running the globe and all that. What's happening?
Yeah, Frederick, doing well. Just doing my usual thing, taking lots of pictures and processing lots of pictures and doing that. Just a lot of this and a lot of that. I've been working on Prime with the guys that did a startup there. Yeah. It's a great new app on the iPhone. Good to check out, and just doing a little bit of everything. Doing some printing. I got some new metallic paper and did some prints last weekend, and a little bit of everything.
Well, when I first met you, what was it? It feels like it was like 10 years ago or something.
Probably.
It was, right?
Yeah.
I remember you were on that quest to get to 1 million shots. Was it 1 million or 10 million?
1 million. I want 1 million.
1 million.
Yeah, I want to publish 1 million photographs.
Are you there?
No, I wish. No, I'm going pretty slow actually. I'm at 104,000 photos that I published to Flickr. That's my main archive of my body of work, and I've got like another 40,000 that are ready to go, that are done. But the way that I'm timing this thing, I'm about 4 years behind on my processing. So I'm doing a lot of the shooting right now, and then when I'm old and can't hop fences anymore, when I'm 90, then I'll finish up all the processing and get the rest of them all up online.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, you're building all the raw material so you can then sit on the front porch and whittle when you're old and gray.
Whittle with my iMac.
There you go. If it's called an iMac. Well, cool, man. Well, welcome. It's always good to chat with you. Welcome
Always
to the show.
Good to see you.
All right, and Mr. Joseph Linaschke is on the show here, the photo apps expert, here for some obvious reasons that will become obvious in a couple minutes here. Welcome, man. I mean, it's good to have you. I know I pinged you at the last minute to come swing into action on the show, and you always come on whenever I ring that break glass in case of emergency. Joseph always comes through. So welcome, man. It's good to have you back.
Oh, it's good to be here. It's good to be here.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not going to go into too much depth on where you are because it'll be interesting to reveal when we get to that point.
Yeah, the big reveal can come later. This big gray room here.
Yeah, like where is Joseph?
Are you like in the same house?
I know you and Thomas look like you're in different rooms.
I think he's at the NSA.
We are actually in the same state though, which doesn't happen often.
It looks like the NSA to me.
Yeah, it could be very close, actually close.
Let's see if I tilt it like this and have zero identifiable. Oh yeah, there we go. If we just put that ceiling up, that should be very NSA-ish. There we go. We'll just leave that.
Yeah, there's
the entire
bugs in
broadcast.
Well, cool guys. All right, before we dive into this episode, I want to thank our first sponsor for this episode of TWiP, and that's our good friends over at FreshBooks. All right, lots of news to dive into. These first couple of stories, I feel like we're going to spend a little bit of time on them, but there's a couple of stories in here that are pretty gigantic. This first story is about DJI. So DJI has announced the latest update to their Phantom line. It looks like they're replacing the Phantom 3. So initially they're going to have two versions of this thing available, a regular or an advanced edition and a professional edition. The differentiating factors between the two will be basically the video resolution. The advanced version will have a 1080p camera, while the professional will have 4K video recording. Both cameras will be able to capture 12 megapixel stills in JPEG or DNG. Prices are $9.99 and $12.59 respectively. And if you go to the DJI website and kind of look at the video overviews of what this Phantom can do, they've basically yeah, I don't know if it's a revolutionary update. It's more of a this thing is just better. I mean, it's like a Phantom 2, but it's better on all fronts. Like it's got stronger motors in there, better GPS station keeping capability. It's got a lot of the seems like it's got a lot of the brains of the the monster they're Inspire down into this more consumer model. So Thomas, have you seen this? Have you seen the Phantom 3 and played with it at all?
I haven't played with it at all, but I've seen it, yeah, and it looks amazing. I mean, it just looks incredible. I mean, everything is so smooth, and the way it pans, and the quality. I mean, seems like it's finally really here. I mean, I might even get one of these eventually.
Oh, I'm getting one. I'm getting one. When I saw the the latest one, I can't remember the name of it. The one that's out now, the expensive DJI drone. Whatever the one that they have out now, the more expensive top of the line one that was released right before this one.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking about.
Inspire, right? It's Inspire. Yeah. So that guy, when that one came out, I was like, oh, I gotta have it. And then I saw the price tag, and I thought, oh, I don't gotta have it. So this $1,259 or even $999, still expensive for something that you're not gonna be using all the time, but it seems much more approachable to me. So yeah, I'm right with you. I think I'll order one of these and a little Pelican case for it and all that. I'll be a pilot. I'll call myself a pilot at that point. So,
yeah, you wonder how many accidents they're going to have with these things, though. They're going to, running into people and cars and trees and everything else. But I don't know.
Humans. I mean, apparently there'll be humans operating these things, and humans typically do stuff like that.
Right.
So you can say that about anything. So cars, motorcycles, everything. So interesting, but regardless, I think it's time to jump in. And I'll let a little bit of the cat out of the bag. We are working on a This Week in Photo drone show that we're adding to the network. I can't reveal yet who's hosting that show, but it's probably someone that a lot of people have heard about. But it's going to be pretty interesting. Lots of crazy stuff going on here at TWiP HQ. Evgeny, what about you, man? Have you jumped into the drone? Because you're always like driving around and traveling and stuff, right? Have you been bitten by the drone bug?
I did, and I got the Phantom 2 Vision Plus, and it broke after a first flight.
Wait a minute, it broke or you broke it?
Well, it's combined, right? It's both things happen simultaneously. So I don't know which one you're planning to get, but be prepared to spend a lot on just the parts.
I know.
And the props break, and the prop guards break, and prop guards are a little cheaper than props, so it's useful investment.
Yeah.
The camera broke, and I replaced the camera and sold the broken cameras. There's a whole market of broken cameras on Vision 2 on eBay. And after spending like $1,200 on the repairs, it seems like it's a really expensive toy. The price tag that you see on the website is just your first flight.
Yeah. it's like a plane ticket to New York, right?
Yeah, that's your test flight, and obviously it's gotten better. There's more safe controls. It will land automatically. It has the whole dedicated landing button that mine doesn't have. So it's like, there's little cool things that are getting there. I know that there's some more expensive ones that will have sonars, so it will be aware of its surroundings and will be able to avoid stuff. So basically like the autopilot on Tesla. So maybe in a year or two, it's going to be everywhere, and like anybody would be able to fly those because they're going to be super safe, will never hurt anyone. But a friend of mine, he injured a woman by snapping half of her finger off.
Oh, geez!
Wow.
And it's crazy. Like things like this happen, and so it's just scary sometimes.
So maybe it's time for insurance companies to modify their riders so that you can, you might need some
injuries from drones, because whatever goes up will eventually come down, whether it's going to be a safe landing or a crash landing. And I captured a lot of those on the video as well. So. But
did you get? I mean, aside from the crashes and dismemberment and all that stuff, did you get any good photos with your drone when you were flying it?
The camera wasn't as good, so the newer one, from the people who touched it, they say it's the same as Inspire 1, so it's really good. It's way better than the one that I had. So that is really tempting. That is really tempting to get a third one. But it's just like, it's quite not there yet, you know? Like, you want something better. For video, it's perfect. For photos, you just want a better quality. You want to strap something more expensive to the drone. Which is even scarier.
Yeah, but it's getting, like you said, it's getting more and more consumery. Joseph, I haven't heard you speak about drones before. Are you have you been bitten by the drone bug yet, or are you on the sidelines? I think you're muted, Joseph. There you are. Yeah, we can't hear you.
Oh, maybe he's muted.
You might be muted. We can't hear you. You're not muted? We heard you before.
Oh, whoever mentioned the NSA.
That was me.
Joseph's being edited in the NSA. Look at that. All right. For those folks that are listening to this, Joseph is frantically trying to get his audio back on. But, Joseph, we will move on from this, and you can give us your thoughts on the DJI Phantom 3 when you get your audio going. But, yeah, everything looks good on this side, Joseph. I don't know what's up with your audio. But get that going. All right, guys, let's move on to this next story. Actually, before we do that, I want to thank the newest sponsor for the This Week in Photo Network, and that's our friends at Animoto.com. Welcome, Animoto. All right, story number 2. Canon announced an XC10 camcorder that shoots 4K video and stills, and one of the features that they're touting of this thing that you can extract still frames or 8-megapixel photographs from 4K video, which we've heard. Obviously, Panasonic has been touting that capability with their cameras. They're, the 4K and the video extraction technology out of there. So a little bit about this camera. It's been rumored for a while, but Canon's taking a slightly different tack. It's a digital camcorder. It's not a still camera. It's a camcorder that's also designed to take stills versus, like, say, a GH4 that is a still camera that also does video very well. So, very, very interesting. So it's small. It measures less than 5 inches in each dimension. It weighs about 2.3 pounds when it's got a battery pack. You can put 2 memory cards in it, and it takes Canon lenses. Look at that. So it's going to be available in June of 2015 for $24.99 or $2,500. Thomas Hawk, I know you are a Canon shooter, if I recall correctly.
Sure. I love Canon.
When you saw this, was this on your radar of like, oh, okay, I got to give that. I'm getting rid of my regular cameras.
I have a lot of mixed feelings about it. I have not done much with video at all, just because I'm 4 years behind on my regular still processing, and video is like a whole nother rabbit hole to go down, and you could spend so much more time. And so I'm really focused more on the still stuff. So, and for that price, I don't know that I would want to buy a video camera that expensive to do video. Mm-hmm. But for video shooters, I think this is great. But what really interests me is the idea of pulling still photos out of video.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to ask you this.
Yeah, and particularly with stuff like street photography. Mm-hmm. Already you have some of these like these nature shooters, whatnot, that'll set these camera traps, and they'll wait for the fox to get really close, and then it goes off in its face, and it gets this great photo of wildlife without even having to be there. And it makes you wonder, like with street photography, you look at some of the old great photographs by Gary Winogrand, and yes, so much of that is composed in your head, but what if you just had 24 hours worth of video to look at of people walking down the street and every character and every interesting person, and you could get that decisive moment, so to speak, after the fact.
Yeah. Yep,
so
I agree.
For me, I think that's really interesting, and the idea of pulling still photos out of video and coming up with really compelling still imagery really excites me about this camera. It still seems a little bit too much for me to want to spend to buy it. I'd rather, I'm more interested in the 50 megapixels on the 5DS for still stuff, but from Canon. But I think it's great, and I would certainly use something like this and use it as a way to cherry pick still photos out of video.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I wrote a post on This Week in Photo a while back called the end of the decisive moment. You know, Cartier-Bresson kind of coined the phrase,
Right.
capturing that peak action. And the gist of the post I wrote was, you know, with these cameras that you can now extract video from, you don't have to be the guy that knows when to click the shutter. You just roll video and then harvest it later. And I've done that to great effect since then. You know, it works. You know, but again, you know, if you're a guy that like you that needs 50 megapixels, this is an 8 megapixel extraction. So you're not gonna get 50 megapixels from a frame of video, but you can do a lot with 8 megapixels.
You can do a heck of a lot, and 8 megapixels for all intents and purposes, at least on the web, without making giant prints, is just fine.
Yeah.
So I mean, as far as building a library, building an imagery, I mean, I could think of so many creative ways that you could hide one of these things even and just, you know, get video.
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think it's terrific, and I think it's going to be one of these things, though. Like already with the technology, people are doing new things, right? Like people are doing, you know, they're taking Google Street View and coming up with photography out of Google Street View, but I think a lot of it's going to be sifting through the footage and the hours and hours and hours of trying to find that decisive moment of all that video. Yeah. And that may not be as easy as some people think it is, but you know, just like going through Google Street View isn't so easy to find the most compelling photographs out of that.
Yeah, you're going to spend the time, whether it's at the beginning or at the end. But someone like you, Tom, you're trying to get to 1 million shots, man. You could get that. You could get to that in a day. Just roll video, right?
Yeah, go there next Tuesday and get it done.
Exactly.
No, I think people will resist against that as well too, because I think the idea is almost like with these animal traps that people set up. It's almost like it's cheating and it's this and that. I don't think it is. I mean, I'm a complete image whore. You know, whatever you do to make the image is fine by me.
I'm with you, man. I'm a pixel punisher. I don't agree with the cheating thing. It's like saying, you know, it's cheating to use a car to drive cross country. Lewis and Clark used donkeys. You know?
Right. Right.
But I think it still opens up a huge debate whether, you know, this is the art or this reduces the art to just kind of like documenting all the things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be like another huge debate, film versus digital, and now like, you know, taking stills from the video or actually going out and trying to capture the moment as it happens.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you cheating? Yeah, I know. And you know, photographers always need something to rail against, whether it's RAW versus JPEG, film versus digital, or whatever. You know, Micro Four Thirds versus full frame, Canon, Nikon, whatever. We always need something to fight against, or we're not happy. Joseph, are you? How's your audio? Are you back with us?
Do you hear me?
Yes,
back. Okay, excellent. I have no idea. I just turned everything off and back on again, and it started working.
All right.
Okay.
Well, I want to get your I want to get your thoughts on this camera, this XC10.
Yeah. Sure.
But also, before we do that, you didn't get a chance to comment on that DJI drone. I was asking.
Oh, sure. I didn't have a whole lot to say to it. No, I mean, I haven't been playing with drones. Obviously, it's the images that we're getting out of them are fantastic. So there's certainly a place for them, and there's an opportunity to do video that's just way, way beyond what mere mortals were able to do before. You used to have to rent a helicopter at a couple $1,000s an hour and a special operator, and if you wanted a helicopter with a camera that you could operate from within the helicopter, it was many thousands of dollars per hour. It's insane. And now you can do this for, you know, $1,000 and a trained pilot. But that was the thing that I did want to comment on, was the pilot part. You said, you made a reference to, I'll call myself a pilot, and this is certainly one of those things that this is why the FAA is getting involved, and a lot of businesses that are just saying, oh, they're offering drone photography are technically breaking the law. I mean, a lot of them are not doing this legally, and many of them are not insured for it. So, you know, the person who got their finger cut off, I'd love to know I guess that wasn't in the U.S. where it's, you know, litigious like crazy, but I'd be interested to know the legal ramifications of something like that. Because I know if I cut someone's finger off with the drone, I think my insurance policy, which is quite good and quite large, would probably look at me and say, "You're not covered for that, dude."
Yeah. That's a really good point. And we should reach out to the ASMP and see what they say about that, because that's they're typically on top of dealing with forward-facing issues. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought about it from the insurance standpoint, and I certainly never heard of someone getting their finger cut off. So that's crazy.
I think I put someone on the spot now.
Yeah.
You didn't name him. It's okay.
Yeah.
Was that like the blade that cut the finger?
Yeah.
So the blade actually swiped and then cut off the finger?
Yeah, well, just a little tip. But basically, it's the drones, they fly away sometimes, right? Something goes wrong, something either radio intermission or something, and it just like starts flying in one direction, and that's it. And you never see it again. And you have no idea what's happened to that, right? So, and that is kind of like a little scary.
Why do you got to rain on my parade, Evgeny? I was all excited about getting my Phantom 3, and now I don't want to get one.
Yeah, get the prop cards. That's it. $30 bucks, and you have like 4, prop guards.
Yeah. I think I'll
safe.
Yeah, it seems like that they should just come with. So on to the Canon camera. On the one hand, I'm glad to see Canon doing something a little bit innovative for them. I'm glad to see that they're stepping out of their comfort zone a little bit. But frankly, looking at the hardware, I'm sorry, it's a bit of a yawner. I mean, I'm a Lumix guy, right? So we're talking about a camera that costs twice as much as the GH4, weighs twice as much as the GH4, and its still capability is only 12 megapixel on the GH4 at 16. So, not sold, not convinced.
Right.
Not in the
But
slightest.
it's got a Canon mount on there, so if you're a Canon shooter that's looking to get into 4K, this might be the path of least resistance. If you don't want to go to the GH4, right?
Sure, path of least resistance, but you could also take that same, what was it, $2,800 or almost $3,000 or whatever it was for that Canon, and buy yourself a GH4 and a really nice lens or a couple of very good lenses.
Yeah.
So, and then
But if you already have a lot of good Canon lenses like I do.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. It's
Isn't the lens fixed there? I think that's the whole kind of like issue there, that the lens is there
Is it a fixed lens?
and not changeable.
Let me double check that. I thought.
Oh, you know what? I think you're right.
Oh yeah, you are completely right. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, it's a 10x optical zoom fixed lens. So.
Okay, you know what? In that case, all right. In that case, I'm comparing this. I'm not even going to compare this to the GH4. Now I'm comparing it to the FZ1000, which is an all-in-one that goes 24, 28 millimeter to 400 millimeter zoom in an all-in-one. Probably weighs about 20% of this thing, and costs under $1,000. So yeah.
Well, that changes it. Yeah. So now, I wouldn't even consider this. Yeah, that's interesting. Canon, what are you doing? Anyway, okay, well, cool. Mm-hmm. So Joseph, what we had gone on to talk about was the whole idea of extracting stills from 4K. Have you played around with that at all?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I have samples on my site about it. The ability to pull out a 4K, pull out an 8 megapixel still from the 4K video stream is great. And obviously, there's discussion about when and where it should be used. You talked about the street photography, and certainly you can get some great pulls out of there that you might not otherwise get. I did some race car shooting where. I was able to pull just that one decisive moment frame out that maybe you wouldn't have got if you're shooting at 10 or 12 frames a second, whatever the camera's capable of. Mm-hmm. So yeah, certainly. I mean, you're basically shooting at 30 frames per second, 8 megapixels. If you look at it that way, that's pretty sweet. Yeah. Sports, action photography. The key there that people need to think about too, though, is that it's if you're shooting kind of in a video mode and you're shooting at a 60th of a second, then those are going to be blurry stills, right? But if you switch it over to kind of more manual mode, thinking you're going to shoot at 2,000ths or 4,000ths of a second, even though you're shooting it's 30 frames per second. So the video itself may have that kind of more jittery, stuttered look, but the extracted frames will be super sharp.
Yeah. It's almost you have to learn a new way of shooting when you start thinking in terms of video and motion blur and all those things that come into effect. Like, Joseph, when you're shooting 4K video specifically with the idea of extracting stills from it, are you, or in other words, let me reframe the question. When you go out, is video foremost on your mind when you're shooting, or do you just roll video as an afterthought, when you're shooting stills, or is it you're out there, I'm going to capture 4K video and extract from it?
Yeah, I'm still, my mind still puts in two different categories, and I know a lot of photographers, Julio, who of course you know as well, tends to always roll video. Mm-hmm. And when we were on the Lumix tour it was a month and change ago, there was kind of the running joke was he was trying to convince me to push the red button. Record video. Because I'm a still photographer, that's what I think in, that's how I think, and video is kind of, okay, right, I gotta push the other button and record video. So there certainly is a difference, and so for me personally, I do think of them as two separate things, and I do separate them. If I'm shooting video for the purpose of extracting stills, then I'm going to be making sure that my shutter speed is a speed that I want it to be, that is going to capture that still cleanly. Yeah. If I'm shooting video for the sake of video, then I'll probably shoot at a slower shutter speed because I want that smoother kind of motion blur that we come to expect out of video. Yeah. It just depends on what it's for.
It's just another tool, right? It's another tool that we have in our toolboxes that we can play with. You don't necessarily have to use it, or you may figure out a new way to make cool images with it.
Right, absolutely.
But it's there. Don't be afraid of it, I think, is the takeaway.
Yeah.
Right,
One other thing that when I was still messing around with my mic, you had mentioned about the Canon camera being designed from the ground up for video compared to the Lumix camera, the GH4.
Yeah.
But the entire is something to remember about the entire Lumix line. I don't mean to be a total shill for it, but those cameras were all designed from the beginning to be both video and still. That was their entire purpose from inception, was to do both.
Yeah.
It wasn't an added-on afterthought.
But can you do both? I shoot Lumix, so I'm kind of leading the witness here. But is it possible to do both of those things well? I.e., be a still camera and be a capable video camera at the same time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You've got the stabilization built in to give you that smoother video, even if you're shooting handheld. You got the microphone input, slap a good mic on that thing, on a Rode mic on it, and you're golden. And yeah, you absolutely can get the super high quality video right next to the stills, and in 4K no less.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, good. All right, guys. Well, let's move on. And I know I think my Comcast is throttling my video upload speed, so it's downgraded my video to an icon. But we'll press on. The next story that I want to talk about is about Apple releasing the Photos app and the iCloud photo library service thing up there. So Joseph, tell us what this is, and do I care about it? Because it's kind of, it just kind of quietly rolled this out. We all knew it was coming, but just one day it just kind of showed up, and then we got a little press release here and there, and articles started showing up, but it wasn't like, hey, all you photographers, it's here. It just kind of under the radar snuck in.
Yeah, well, that's because it really isn't for all the photographers. And I think there wasn't a lot of fanfare because the beta had been released, month and a half or so before. So the big announcement was out. That's when the press all got crazy about it, and a bunch of media got advanced copies of it and played with it and did their videos on it. So when this was released, there wasn't anything different than what was in the beta. So it was just out. So as far as who's excited about it, certainly not Aperture users. That is for sure. But we knew that. We knew that coming into it. So it's taken a real shift for me. Obviously I used to run the site Aperture Expert, and now that's called PhotoApps.expert because it's no longer just about Aperture. But the mind shift for me has been to just accept that this is not a pro app, not by any stretch of the imagination. So if you forget that part of it and you look at it, it actually is pretty darn cool. The ability to have your entire photo library, and if you think of it like your family photos, this isn't your work stuff, this isn't what you're doing for clients, it's your family photos, the stuff you're taking on your iPhone, stuff with your point and shoot or your DSLR, and you're sticking them into this one little photos library that gets synced across all of your devices and has some reasonably robust image adjustment tools, the kind of stuff that mom and dad and grandpa and grandma are going to want. It's pretty cool. It works very well. I'm currently migrating about a terabyte of personal images over to it and pushing them up to the cloud just to see what happens. Wow. I expect that to be done in about 6 months, but it's happening, and it's exciting to see. So for what it does, it works well. It certainly is missing some features. There's no question about that. It is absolutely not a pro product, but it's not meant to be. And as long as you can accept that and take it for what it is, it's actually pretty cool.
So it's not a replacement for Aperture or even iPhoto, right? So is iPhoto going to remain, or is it going to go up?
No, iPhoto and Aperture are both canceled at the same time. This is more a replacement for iPhoto. It has features that iPhoto didn't, but it's also missing some things that iPhoto had. But like the iWork transition and Final Cut transition, it starts off a bit more basic, and more features will come. But it is definitely an iPhoto replacement, not an Aperture replacement.
Okay, so it's an add-on. And what are you doing for your pro level workflow right now, the Aperture Expert?
Well, over on the site, we're exploring all the different options. Personally, at the moment, I'm using Lightroom, but Capture One is also very intriguing. So we've got a lot of users who are writing articles on Capture One, and they, some people love it, and there's some features in there that it doesn't have that make me think it may not work for me, but it is pretty sweet. And it's for Aperture users, it's actually pretty interesting, is they have a very good migration tool that will actually try to mimic many of the adjustments that you've applied in Aperture in Capture One. So applying your crops and black and whites and curves and levels and saturation and everything else. And it's pretty good. So that part of it's really intriguing. So anyway, I'm using Lightroom right now, but pretty soon here I'm going to have to switch over, start using Capture One, and just spend a few months with it.
Yeah, likewise. Thomas Hogg, you process images in volume all the time.
Right.
Aperture's demise versus the inception of Apple Photos. Where do you stand on all this?
Oh, I hate this app. I don't like it at all. I don't like it one bit. No, I mean it's not for editing photos, for pro editing photos. I mean I use Lightroom and Photoshop, and I like some of the Nick FX stuff that's out there, but no, I mean for me it's annoying. I put my card in my iMac and I want to import my files into Lightroom, and instead I get this pop-up from this new Photos thing that I don't want. I don't want to send my photos there. I don't want anything to do with it. I definitely do not want the cloud, Apple's cloud. I do not want to pay any money for any of that stuff. I just find it's kind of an annoyance. I don't want to take the time or even spend the time to play around with it. I mean, iPhoto to me before was buggy. It would freeze up with my large library of images. I mean, I don't think. I was using Aperture years and years and years ago, and it goes back so far that when I switched from Aperture to Lightroom, it was because Aperture couldn't do vignette back then. Yeah. Imagine that. I mean, it's very, very early. Yeah. So, I mean, and once you get on a path, like being on the Lightroom path, and learning that and evolving with that, it's difficult to want to spend time. I mean, certainly I wouldn't spend time with this for the photo editing capabilities. I mean, they would, they just would not compare. I mean, so for me, like Joseph said, I mean, this is not a professional editing software. There may be that this is perfect for somebody else, but for me, if I had a choice just to get rid of it and get it off the Mac system, maybe there is a way. I just haven't looked at it yet. I would.
Actually, no. You can't.
So I guess it's safe to say you're not in the target market for this application.
No, I hate it.
No, but Thomas, if you're popping in your card and it's popping up the Photos app, when it comes up, instead of just quitting it up in the top left of that, it's going to show the name of your card, and there's going to be a little checkbox or icon or something that says "Do not open photos for this again."
Yeah, I know. I mean, I'm too lazy. I mean, I'm sure there's a way. You're right. I mean, there's a way for all this stuff, but it's just for me. I just it offers no value to my life. Everything I need to do, I feel like it's not going to ever provide me anything I can't do in Lightroom.
Well, that's for sure. Now, you said you're using iPhoto. You used to use it, or you still use it for some stuff?
No. I mean, with this new upgrade, it got rid of iPhoto, so we're using Photos now. But I mean, part of my problem is I would play around with iPhoto with some minor things, but I have a very, very large library. I mean, I have 140,000 finished images. Mm-hmm. And Apple never really did large libraries well. I mean, I used to like to try to play around with it with my Apple TV so that I could use that as an image server sort of for the Apple TV, but it just choked on too many images and it never worked, and I'm just reluctant to play with it because it's not designed for somebody like me. It's not designed for somebody who's doing professional editing. It's not designed for somebody who has 100,000 photos. It's not optimized for any of that. So,
well, I will say that. So I had both my personal and my client work in Aperture in one library, and it was they were in one library, but I had two separate folders, two collections inside of that library. And so it was really easy to take all the personal work and just output it as a single separate library and then move that over to Photos. And that was just over 100,000 images, 110,000 images, or 101,000, something like that. And it migrated fine, and Photos actually runs very well with it. Now, I haven't spent a whole lot of time in it, but scrolling around and searching for things, it seemed to be working quite nicely. So it does seem to be way faster and better than iPhoto was, even for a library that size. And I'm not trying to convince you to give it a try. I'm just, for listeners, if you've got a 100,000 image library, don't discard it. It actually, or don't just disregard Photos. It actually seems to be working quite well.
Yeah, Evgeny, what about you, man? Have you played around with this new Photos app, and you care about it?
No, I guess I'm in the same bucket as Thomas. I knew it was out. I knew it would be in the show notes. I upgraded my Mac, and I haven't opened it once.
Yeah,
it's like it's just not on my mind, and I never really used iPhoto other than just like open it once to see what it's all about and close it. And that was it. Like, for me, that seems like a nice, decent product for personal photos, obviously. But yeah, just everything is in the Lightroom, and I used Aperture as well, but I switched from really early on. As soon as I realized that the first aperture was having one giant catalog of all the images that you cannot export, one by one, but only could export as a huge giant catalog, that was a huge disaster. Obviously, they fixed it many, many years ago and since abandoned aperture, but I'm on Lightroom all the way, basically. So
yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if we'll ever get any numbers about the adoption rate of photos, because I looked at it and I've played around with it just in preparation for the show. But I'm kind of like you guys. I'm not using it. As I don't think I would use it as a replacement for Lightroom, and so I thought of it as, okay, well, maybe this was the perfect tool for my iPhone snaps that I take all the time, and I'll let them sync up. Joseph, I wanted to ask you, I know you played around with Mylio, right? The Mylio service, which does that multiple computer synchronization thing.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like the replacement for Mylio for Mac users?
Well, it is. It offers some similar functionality there, and unfortunately, I haven't had enough time in Mylio to really do a proper comparison. I did a small migration of a library to Mylio, and it didn't sync across all my devices, and I was troubleshooting it and never got to the bottom of it. And on first glance, I'm impressed. I'm very impressed with Mylio. I think that it could stand to be a very, very cool app. It's the problems that I was having as far as setting it up are part of why things like Photos are so intriguing, because Photos just works as far as synchronizing across your devices. With Mylio, you have a myriad of settings per device to decide this device gets this type of data and can sync this direction and can do this and do the other thing, and it's really obtuse. With the Photos app, you just basically turn it on, and inside your preferences you choose to have your originals stored on this computer, or to have your library automatically optimized, which means that Photos will store the originals for your most recent photos and keep kind of middle resolution images, I guess, preview resolution images as it can, but as you start to run low on space, it'll just automatically pare it down to thumbnails to keep your entire library on pretty much any size drive. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be limits at some point, but even on an iPhone, you can keep a massive library on there because it'll just store the thumbnails, and it's completely automated. You don't have to think about it.
In daily use, do you really need that? I mean, do you really need to have access to the photo of your kid that you took,
it's not about
6 months ago?
It's if you think of it from the perspective of a multi-computer system. If you've got a desktop and a laptop, right, and your laptop's on the road, and you're obviously not going to carry 100,000 images around on your laptop, but you know what? Now I have access to all of those. I mean, I don't think there's anybody that would say no, that's just totally unnecessary. The ability to access any photo from any time that you shot certainly has appeal to it.
Well, but if you put them all like on Flickr, they give you a terabyte for free, and you just, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of what I do.
Sure, but then that's just a separate management, and then it's a whole other thing. You have to, if you edit some photos, you got to upload them there. If you organize them here, then you got to re-upload them to there. The idea is you edit them, and you manage them in one place, and it propagates everywhere. And you
but Apple's not going to give you a terabyte of storage for free.
Well, no, it's not. But
you're saying, Thomas, you miss out on the. If you use Flickr, you have a terabyte, and Joseph, you're saying if you use Flickr, you have a terabyte, yes, but you don't have the synchronization.
Right, you don't have to sync. You have to manually upload. You have to manually manage. It's a totally different experience.
Yeah.
And there are people balking.
It's the right tool for the right job. I mean, for all of us, or most of us, except for you, Joseph, because you are in it. You have to train people on this stuff. I think, we are not in the target market for photos. Is that fair?
Well, I am, in the sense that I'm separating my client work, my professional work, from my personal work. And I don't mean personal high-end work. I mean pictures of the kids, my family photos. Right, that stuff, that's the kind of thing that I don't want to have to think much about. I'm not going to do a lot of editing to. These are just family snaps that I want to be able to access anywhere easily and just have them there and know where they are and not have to worry about it, not have to think about it. And that's basically what that gives you. It's a simplicity. And yeah, you don't have the tools that you have in Lightroom, but it's not designed to do that. I think you just have to look at it for what it's designed for and not try to think of it as an aperture or Lightroom replacement. And in that case, it seems quite good. It's not perfect, but it seems quite good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would suggest that folks play with it, right? It's out and it's free, right? It doesn't cost anything to use it. If you're a Mac user, you're gonna, the next time you update your operating system or your iPhone or iPad, it's gonna pull it down and you'll have it automatically, right?
Right,
Yeah,
it'll be there.
but-
The cloud service isn't free. You know, if you want to upload them to iPhoto Cloud storage, but that's not free. But the software is, yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, I want to move on to this next story. We're almost at the top of the hour again, and my video still hasn't returned, but it's okay. The next story is LinkedIn. So LinkedIn, that many of us use, is purchasing or has said that they're going to purchase lynda.com, and that's where Joseph is hanging out right now, right? Joseph working...
The big reveal. The big reveal.
The big reveal. He is not at the NSA. He is at lynda.com.
Don't say that word again. Oh, man. You're
They're
gonna kill me.
coming after you. They're going to be confiscating all your computers, Frederick.
Yeah, I know. Joseph, you're not at lynda.com. You're at the educational branch of LinkedIn, right?
Still lynda.com.
Still lynda.com. Look at that. But the Linda is probably on her the Fijian island that she just bought, hanging out.
Actually, she's probably here right now because everybody's been in meetings all day. So.
Oh, really? So tell us. I mean, so the story is, you know, it's not a huge story, right? It's LinkedIn said, hey, we want lynda.com. We want to buy it, and Lynda said, yes, you can buy us, and boom, now LinkedIn owns lynda.com, which is good. Joseph, you're there, right? So you're a lynda.com author, so you can't really speak, you know, about insider stuff. But overall, is this a good move? I mean, do you feel, as an author for lynda.com, do you feel like this is a good move for them, or is lynda.com going to kind of get swallowed up into the monster that is LinkedIn, and we'll never see him again?
No, I'm really excited about this. So when I first heard about it, I was at a loss. I just what? How does that make any sense at all? And then I read the post that was on lynda.com and on LinkedIn as well. It was written by Lynda, the founder, as to why, and then watched a video that was from LinkedIn about it. And it really starts to make a lot of sense. So the whole thing with LinkedIn is they're a company that's all about trying to help people get jobs, move jobs, get different jobs, better jobs, and so on, or find talent, find people who are looking for jobs. And the whole point of Lynda is to train people with skills that they don't have, to give them better skills, improve the skills they have, or learn new ones.
Sure.
And when you put those two things together, one goes with the other, right? If you learn new skills, you can get a different job. If you want a better job, you need to learn new skills. And so it really, really makes sense. And so, you know, I have no idea how this is going to be handled, but in my mind, I can imagine looking at a LinkedIn profile. You've got your LinkedIn profile, and you write on there, you know, I'm skilled in Photoshop, and it comes back automatically and says, oh, well, you know, how skilled are you? Do you want to take these advanced Photoshop courses? Or you're an expert in Photoshop, why don't you learn Lightroom as well? Right. And just offer these different ideas. And, of course, as an author, that's just exposure to my content, and I get paid more when people watch my content more. So it's, in that regard, it sounds fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I love to see these consolidations happening. I had to be honest. That one came out of the blue. I did not see that one coming.
I had no idea.
See that one coming. Yeah, I would have guessed. I'm placing bets on Adobe getting acquired by somebody. That's my little secret bet.
Oh, you think? Who's going to buy them?
I'm thinking Microsoft. I think Microsoft is going to snatch up Adobe. I have no insider information, people, so don't go buy an Adobe stock on my word. But I feel like it's a tasty morsel right now, and Microsoft needs a nice playing card to get back into the game in terms of, you know, professional image editing and multimedia creation. And why not buy Adobe and do that? What do you think about that, Thomas? Do you think that's valid? Does that hold water?
Sure. I mean, why not? Huh? I mean, who knows? I mean, it's anybody's guess. But yeah, I mean, Adobe, boy, they've done very well as a company, and this whole cloud thing. I mean, is from a business perspective, that's been very profitable for them. You know, pushing everybody to the subscription model. So yeah. I mean, I think something like that would make sense. I mean, who knows if it ever happens? I mean, they'd have to pay a lot of money for Adobe. Adobe's pretty expensive.
Yeah. Well, Microsoft has some deep pockets, right? You know, so who knows?
Yeah, they do. You know. Bill Gates could probably throw a couple nickels their way, huh?
I know. Sell a home or two and buy Adobe, right? You're done.
Why not?
Look at that. I don't know. Yeah, so I don't know. It's interesting. I love watching this stuff. Being in Silicon Valley, it's always exciting because this stuff just keeps happening, and you can see patterns in the chaos repeating. So, all right, guys, let's dive into Evgeny. I want to have you help us answer this listener question. Let me read it. It says, this is from listener Dave King. Dave King says, I currently have a Sony NEX6 which I enjoy, but it lacks some features I really want available to me. I want to use the camera for both photography and video. The additional features I want are, one, an articulating LCD display so that I can see what I'm shooting, photo or video, from a selfie perspective. Two, microphone
You got a
input.
target market here.
I know, microphone input so that I can plug in an external mic for improved audio. I know what Joseph's thinking right now. Instead of using the built-in mic, and naturally I want excellent image quality. He says he believes the Panasonic GH4, which he knows I'm fond of, that's my camera, would suit my needs, but I wonder if there are other options available that I'm not aware of. If the GH4 is my best bet, what's the single lens you would recommend for it to be used as an all-around lens? Evgeny, what do you think?
I do have an X6, and I do know that attaching all the accessories is a little bit painful. So definitely not good for getting external mic. Apparently, like you need either some proprietary mics or something like that. Mm-hmm. So GH4 I haven't played with. I'm sure you can plug an external mic to that.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah. That's correct.
Then it's perfect. All you need is some nice wide-angle 35mm bright lens, and you can get yourself, selfies with one hand, and the perfect, street camera / sort of landscape, sort of indoor camera with a bright lens, or something even wider, like 24mm, for example, something that just, gets you right in a scene.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And Joseph, I want to have you piggyback on that as well. One of the main reasons why I like the GH4 is because I shoot lots of multimedia stuff, whether it be me on camera with the camera on a tripod, with the LCD face forward so I can see that the thing is still recording after 30 minutes into an interview, or whatever. It just makes sense to have that. Plus, it's got the built-in audio jack on there and the touchscreen, etc. Joseph, what about you? He's got a Sony NEX6. He's looking for something different or better. Would you recommend the GH4 or something else?
Well, I mean, GH4 obviously is going to be great for that. But I was just looking up the price of the NEX to see price comparison. So if that's his price range, he might want to consider the XC1000, because that's that all-in-one that we were talking about earlier. It's a slightly smaller sensor. It's a 1-inch sensor, but it's an all-in-one camera that has a 25 to 400 millimeter zoom. It's physically quite a bit larger than the NEX, but it's very, very lightweight. It's a surprisingly comfortable camera to use and to hold all day long, and it has the microphone input. So that may have all the things that he wants, and it has the articulating LCDs. He can do that. So that may have all the features that he wants, but by going to the GH4, you get a little bit bigger sensor, you get a touchscreen LCD, which the XC1000 for some reason doesn't have. And one of the biggies, one of the big differences is the GH4, you have a headphone jack. So he didn't mention that. To some people, that's really important to be able to monitor audio through headphones. Yeah. And for some, it's irrelevant. The XC1000 does not have that. So that's something else to consider.
With the
XC1000, the GH4 is a professional camera.
The XC1000, the lens is not interchangeable, right?
It's not, but it's a 25 to 400 millimeter with a built-in image stabilization that'll knock your socks off. At 400 mil, you can hand hold it. It's ridiculous.
Jeez.
Well, let me throw a Nikon alternative. The D750, full frame, built around video, so all the video controls and everything. And obviously you can change lenses. Pricier, but it's a full frame, 24 megapixels, so it's gonna last for a bunch of years. Really good, solid camera for people who like if you're in that budget range.
Sure, I'm looking. That's about 2,000 for the body.
Possibly, yeah.
And does that camera shoot 4K, Evgeny?
No, it does not. Really few cameras shoot 4K. And there is different 4Ks. There is GoPro 4K. There is like my camera shoots 1080p, but it's kind of like not the best 1080p. So there is always weird comparisons, and you're just gonna if you're shooting video, don't get a DSLR. Get a proper video camera.
Yeah.
Right. If you want flexibility, then you just compromise and get something that shoots 4K or 1080p, and you can shoot photos with that.
Yeah. But Joseph, does the FZ1000 shoots 4K, right? Have you shot
Yeah.
4K with it? Does it do a good job?
It does excellent. Yeah. It's a surprisingly capable camera. So when I had one for, well, I've got one now, but I had one for a while to do some testing with. Actually, I'll grab mine right here. Just as a luminary, I needed to have one to play with for a while, and I went out and I shot a race, a multi-leg race. It was bicycling and running and kayaking and stuff like that, and mountain biking. And so I shot this whole race all day with this camera. And when I first got it, my first response was, I don't want this. Like, this is weird all-in-one kind of plasticky body. You know, I don't want to use this thing. But honestly, at the end of a day of shooting, I was very glad to be working with this really small, lightweight camera. So anybody who's watching, I'm now holding up the camera, and the lens barrel is quite a bit bigger than kind of a small lens that you might put on a regular DSLR or a regular mirrorless camera. The body is about the size of the GH4, but it's very lightweight. And so if you're going to be out shooting all day long, it's quite a cool camera to have. And the zoom, when you go zoom it all the way out, it's kind of obscene. It just
That's making me a little uncomfortable.
But it's
a big
it's a
and thick, isn't it?
It is. Wow. You're really happy to be on this show, aren't you, Joseph?
I'm very happy to be on the show. It's a very capable camera, and I really enjoyed working with it. And yes, the image quality is great. It also does slow motion to, I think, 120 frame per second slow motion.
Wow.
I think is what it is. At HD, not at 4K.
That's
now,
what she said.
Thomas, when you look at these cameras, right? Yeah. You're a diehard full frame guy, and you poo-poo these smaller sensors, right? What do you think?
Whatever people want to shoot with, man. I think, like they always say, the best camera is the one that you've got with you. So, if you're not going to carry your big one around, your big gun around, and you're going to put a small one in your pocket, then yeah, I mean, why not? For me, I carry the big one everywhere I go. So, it's kind of like, I would rather shoot with, my Canon 5D Mark III or a 5DS or something that's going to be able to produce, images, I believe, with the lenses, the prime lenses that I have, that are going to be better than what you can get out of that. But I'm not everybody, and there are a lot of people that don't want to carry a big camera and, 8 lenses in a bag with them everywhere they go.
Yeah, that's true. And as people move more and more into video, then the mindset shifts, right? Because it's like, okay, I want to shoot more video and I need 4K. What are my options to shoot 4K? Or like, our listener, Dave King, I want to shoot video and I need an audio input on there. What cameras have video and audio and can shoot 4K? So your choices are an inverted pyramid at that point. You get lower, lower, lower and then when you layer in price on top of that and what your budget is, the choice becomes clear, after a certain point. So. Interesting. Evgeny, what about you, man? I mean, I know you're a full frame shooter as well. Do you ever consider shooting with smaller cameras, or is it you need the pixels?
I'm actually considering a medium format digital camera.
He's going the other direction.
You're going in the opposite direction. I love it.
What are you looking at?
Pentax 645Z, the new one.
If you get one, I'd love to hear what you think of it.
Oh yeah, I'm just like saving up for that.
Wow, what do those run, man?
$9,000 for a body, and then something else for the lenses. I haven't even looked at the lenses because it's just like it's gonna be really pricey.
Well, that's the thing about the Pentax. It's not that much more than a full frame DSLR. A top end Canon or Nikon.
Yeah.
It's not that much more. It's nothing. It's way cheaper than looking at something like a Phase 1 or a Hasselblad, where you're looking at $40,000 or $50,000 entry price.
But you're talking body only, right, Evgeny?
Body only, so it's $9,000, but it gets you. It's the most affordable new medium format digital camera. So obviously,
why do you need all that? I mean, what's the purpose?
I like shooting landscapes. And I feel like, when you're running around with DSLR, you're shooting just like way too much stuff. And like, I'm not Thomas, so I want to shoot less. I want to stand there and just enjoy the scenery. And that's why I started shooting things like time lapses a little bit, because you just stand there for 20 minutes just waiting, or like 30 minutes, and you just enjoy the process. You're actually shooting less and getting more enjoyment of being there on the spot. And I think the medium format, I was traveling with the guy who was shooting large format, and like while you're running around shooting hundreds of shots, he's shooting like 3 or 4. It takes a while to set it up. It takes a while to prep everything, and in the end, like his photos look fantastic, and my photos are just like 300 photos to choose from. You know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it makes the culling process simpler, and you're treating each shot as like a precious jewel, right? Like, okay, I have this shot now. I need to post-process it. Yeah, interesting. Very cool. Very interesting. I'd be interested to see what you think too after you get it.
Yeah.
Thomas, would you ever consider going medium format, Mr. Thomas Hawk?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I like a lot of those cameras. They're a little pricey for me, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, you know, DSLRs work well because they're cheaper, and but yeah, you know, someday, you know, when I grow up, I want to be a Hasselblad.
Yeah. I used to shoot. I mean, the largest format I've ever shot was 4x5, which was 4x5 sheet film. Remember those days? And that was a process. And literally, we had to shoot. This is when I was in the military. We had to shoot and process our own film, which was an interesting learning experience. Let's just say that. All right, guys. Well, let's move on to this. Hopefully, Dave King, that answered your question. Folks, if you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, just visit our website at thisweekinphoto.com and click on that Submit a Question link. You can send us a voice or text message, and we'll respond to that accordingly. All right, guys, before we end the show, I want to get into our picks of the week. Remember, you guys can recommend anything to the TWiP Army as long as it is somehow related to photography. Joseph Linaski, I'm going to let you go first. What's your pick of the week?
Am I allowed to choose Linda, even though it's a storyline and probably a sponsor as well?
You can, but I will call you a walking commercial, but go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to do the second one with the same line.
I know. How about this? Joseph, if you choose Linda, Yevgeny cannot choose anything 500px related. No, go for it, Joseph. Linda's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, since I'm here this week recording a new training series, definitely shout out to lynda.com, and specifically I'm going to call out my own training courses that are on here. I've got a Photo 101 Intro to Photography course, but then I also have the Photo 101 Low Light and Photo 101 Macro, and those are two newer courses. These are live action courses that are on there that are very popular.
Oh, cool.
And and those have been great, and I don't think I'm supposed to tell you what I'm down here recording right now, but I can guarantee you it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a cool new course, and it's another live-action photography-related course, and I'll be recording here all week.
I have an idea what that course is going to be about. I'm not going to say anything.
Okay.
Just shooting inside of an essay.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, for any listeners that want I think you get a 10-day free trial through the sponsorship, right?
Yeah, but you can give them yours. Go for it.
Okay, well, if you go to my photography website, of course, is photojoseph.com. If you go to photojoseph.com/Linda, that will take you to my 10-day trial page. So photojoseph.com/Linda will get you there.
That's perfect, because Linda is not sponsoring this episode of This Week in Photo. So
there we go. Oh, good.
You slotted. So she got in this episode anyway. Look at that. You're a mole.
That's good.
All right, well, cool. Perfect tip. So, Joseph, if people want to see, do you have a listing on your website of like all your lynda.com courses if they just want to see everything that you've done?
Well, if you go to lynda.com and you look me up as an author, you'll see everything there.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to do it.
Very cool. All right. Next up, Mr. Thomas Hawk. What is your pick of the week?
Hey. Okay, I'm going to share something that I'm kind of involved with. So this is I just shared my screen. This is Prime. And this is a powerful new photo editor for the iPhone. And one of my buddies, Art Chang, started this company. There's like 4 guys to start up, and they approached me and a number of other photographers about building filters, and we made basically styles with Lightroom on what we're doing with our own photography. And these are all the different photographers that are involved. And you can basically buy these styles and add them to your photos on your iPhone, so for mobile photography. And I've been really impressed with the quality of the styles. It also has a powerful editor. It's one of the best editors out there. So it's a free app. The styles cost 99 cents each, or you can buy, I think you can get all of them for $10. And I've really been enjoying this. It's how I've been editing all my mobile photos lately and putting them up for Instagram or stuff like that on the iPhone. It's a great app. So I'm a big fan of it, and I'm also one of the featured style authors, and it's a cool tool.
Yeah, I like this, and we talked about this in a previous episode of This Week in Photo. I wanted to ask you, so 2 questions about Prime. So, and for the folks that want to check it out, it's Prime with 2 I's, Prime, right? But is Prime just an app, or is it an app and a social network a la Instagram?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it is an app. Right now it's a photo editing app, and it's got styles, whatnot. But they do plan on developing out more of a social network like Instagram. For starters, though, it's just a way to add cool effects onto your photos. I do like that they do revenue sharing with all of the photographers that are involved. Mm-hmm. So the photographers get 50% of all the proceeds from the styles that people buy. So that's I think very cool. It's a way that the photographers are benefiting from this beyond just some company. I know that they do have plans for a social network down the line and want to do more with that. Right now, though, it's more of an editing tool, and you can send it straight to Instagram or wherever you want, really, Facebook or Flickr, or. But eventually, they do want to do more and have more of a social network there on Prime. But they are a startup. It's just 4 guys. They're doing really well, and I think it's a great product for what they've got, and I'm looking forward to what they continue to push out on the social network side.
So with those styles, I'm assuming it comes with a number of built-in styles. Like I could apply, a Thomas Hawk style to my images. Do I have to purchase that style, or do they come preloaded?
So how it works? The app is free, and the app has a bunch of editing tools that you can use. And then it comes with some free styles. So there's a handful of styles that you can use for free without spending any money, and you can try out basically all the styles. And then if you see something you like, you can buy it. So it has some free styles. It's got a great editor. If there's something that's not free and you want to buy it, it's 99 cents.
Cool. Awesome. All right, we'll definitely have to check that out. There's so many photo apps out there. I'm like, I have a folder full of photo apps.
There was a website where you could learn all about these.
If only, Joseph, if only there was a website where you could learn about photo apps. Maybe I'll register photo apps. Joseph obviously is joking because this is what your website is about, right, Joseph?
Yeah, I'm going to do a write-up on this on photoapps.expert. This is awesome.
Awesome, thanks.
Very cool. All right, Evgeny, last but not least, what is your pick of the week?
Oh, I wanted to go with Prime with 2 eyes as well, but it's covered already, and I know Art, he's a great guy, so it was cool to see his app featured. So I'll go with the simple traditional choice. So we at FireNPX been working for the last 2 or 3 months rebuilding the whole photo manager and the uploader from scratch. And they are now live. So there's like completely new reorganized photo manager that allows you to take it to the next level. So it features, you can drag and drop, you can multiple select, you can edit multiple photos. So it's similar to something what you would do in the Lightroom. Select a bunch of photos, add tags, remove tags, and do a bunch of things. So this is now possible. And the new uploader that is similar to what you expect from Lightroom as well. Just like you can keep on doing your things, adding tags and adding all the metadata as the uploader actually uploads your photos. And it's all on the web, so it's live right now. To make it more interesting, there's going to be a special promotion kicking in tonight at midnight. So I don't know if the show's going to be live then or not, but
it's live now.
Whoever's looking, it's not live yet, but it's going to be live in just a couple of hours.
Cool. Okay, so by the time this feed goes live, which will be on the Friday, we're Monday the 13th right now, so the show will go live Friday. So this will be live by then, right?
Yeah. So everybody will be able to save a little if they decide to upgrade to Plus or Awesome.
Okay, cool. And how do they get the discount again?
Just go to FireNPX.com. There's going to be a banner on the top, and it will get you there.
Excellent. Very cool. Awesome. Good. Well, I'm going to skip my pick of the week because we're running low on time. I have to save that till next week, folks. But before we sign off, Joseph Linaski, I'm going to let you go first. What do you got coming up in the next month, week, years for your photography career?
Well, of course, I'm here at Linda recording this new course, and I'm going to get back next week and keep on working on the photoapps.expert. There's a lot happening there. And still working on that Beauty After Breast Cancer book. We're shooting through June and July. We got a lot of shoots coming up, and have been doing a lot more since we last talked about it. So, still trying to get that book out by October. So that's a big deal there.
Very cool. All right. Well, good. Well, good. Always good to see you, and good luck on your whatever you're recording down at Linda right now.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Thomas Hawk. What about you?
Yes, sir.
What's going on in your world coming up next?
I'm just doing the same thing I always do. I'm running around. I might go to Wyoming. I might go to New York. I'm definitely going to Idaho. I might go to Alabama or Philadelphia or somewhere else, somewhere in America. Take a bunch of pictures.
I want to be you, man. I just want to be you, just like for like a week. Run around and be Thomas Hawk. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, love it.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And Mr. Yevgeny Chabatarov, what's coming up for you next?
For me personally, I'm going to Iceland with end of April with one of the best landscape photographers that I've ever seen, Yuri Bilagushi. So if you see his photos on the top of the popular, or like if you see Iceland photos on the top of foreign packs, it's usually his. It's phenomenal stuff, and like I cannot wait to learn from him.
Excellent. Cool. Well, again, always a pleasure having you on as well. And continued success with 500px. You guys you continue to rock it and innovate. So good going. Thank you for doing that.
I love the big picture on 500px.
Yeah.
The big, where your profile is, that giant thing.
Yeah.
That's
Wait is going to get even better.
Good.
Hey guys, before we sign off, I'm looking in the chat over on YouTube. Andy Diaz is asking a question. He says, "Have we heard?" He said Snapseed released a major update, their first update in some time. Do we have any thoughts on that? I played with the Snapseed app, and I gotta say, I mean, I've been using Snapseed for a long time as kind of one of my go-to apps in my Photos folder on my phone. And when I saw the update, I'm like, okay, let me launch it. Usually you see a few little changes here and there. They just redid the whole thing, and it's awesome. So it is an awesome app now, Snapseed. Have either of you guys played with it at all?
I love it. I think it's great.
Right? It's clean, it's fast. Layers. You have layers on your phone, or at least they're more akin to adjustment layers, but you have that level of control as well as localized edits directly right on the phone. It's ridiculous. But Yevgeny, have you played with it?
I did, and I think it's beautiful. It's I actually been editing a few photos with it lately, and it's cool. I stopped using that before because on iPhone it's kind of like it didn't feel right. Now it feels really great, but again, there is a lot of apps, so I kind of have to use all of them. I like the new apps. If I can pick one more, there's a black app for black and white photography, really cool. But yeah, Snapseed is great. Just like a bunch of cool apps out there.
Yeah. Yeah, all kinds of cool stuff. Yeah, so definitely check out Snapseed, check out Prime with 2 eyes, and play around with it. Apply some of the Thomas Hawk styles to your work. And see,
there we go.
See if you can't make your work look like Thomas Hawk. Cool, man. All right, guys. Well, thank all you guys for coming on. It's been a great show, even though my video, for some reason, Google decided to edit me and not let me show up in my own show. That's okay, because it's audio.
You still look good. You still look good.
I look good. My icon looks good and glossy.
You never look better, Frederick.
I know. Whatever. First of all, I want to thank our sponsors for their support of this show, and that's our good friends over at FreshBooks, and our new sponsor, Animoto.com, for their support of the TWiP network. And, I think that's it. With that, I think it is time to take that lens cap off.